even though he passed in April of 2017. So I did learn a lot about keywords, as well as other technology, XHTML, and building meta tags, and I apply that to resumes and LinkedIn profiles.
I think that we have to adapt, and that's something you have trouble doing when you get older to everything, and that's always going to be, no matter what it is. Every generation's going to, because the one thing that we all do is, and I say this all the time, we don't all change gender, we don't all change political party, we don't all change, whatever, but we all become old. Old doesn't discriminate. It grabs us all.
That's true.
One ache and pain at a time.
And replacing some parts here and there for some people. Yep.
Yeah. And what I see the value of, and they don't, and I understand it's not practical for a lot of things, but I really like the old days where somebody would walk you up to somebody else and say, I know somebody good for this job. And let me introduce you to Lynne. And then you talk to somebody, because I think that so much is lost by not having that 5 minutes of FaceTime.
But you're exactly right. It's the build, the know, like, trust, and it's building those relationships that are key. And that's how we thrive in our organization. I do know people that have applied to jobs online and got through the bots. But, our theory and our experience is that most people are landing jobs through networking, and that's exactly what we do. We provide networking opportunities for people in Chester County, Delaware County, Bucks County, Montgomery County, Berks County, Philadelphia, and we're opening up our 14th chapter in Wilmington, Delaware next month.
How do you keep up with all this? Because I went and looked at your site. And I looked at it, and the first thing I noticed was that none of the dates on your events, there were no events that had already happened. It was all up to date, whereas people say, come to our 2014 Christmas party, and they have all some. Yours was up to date as of that day.
So we use technology to our advantage. I have to say I'm a little bit of a geek. I do love technology. And
I think you can be a little bit of a geek,
Okay, I'm a big geek.
Yeah. You're either aren't or you're just in.
and I love social media, and that's why I, was working on my doctoral dissertation on that. But I use a Google Doc, and the Google Doc, I'm always able to keep it up to date within a day or two. Sometimes I get busy because I'm out speaking myself. But we also have a meetup. So our meetup group, it started in 2010 by two gentlemen. I took it over in 2015. It had 1,722 members. And in the past 3 years, we've more than doubled. So I think this morning I checked, we had 3,640 members. And here's the beautiful thing. It's free to join. And most everything we do is free. Now, we are working on building a new website. We're going to monetize, some of our offerings for those who can, so that we can put money back into the system for those who can't pay and need services and resources and support. So we're trying to have impact in and of our own organization to help everybody, because we believe in diversity and inclusion, and not everybody has the same means. I know that after 11 and a half months as a single parent, $20 for an event was like, oh my God, that's like 4 meals. So we respect that. I've walked in those moccasins before. I lost everything in my life to fire. So I know what it's like to not have. And therefore, my mission is to be able to pay it forward, to provide something for everybody.
Well, it's funny, because when you know what it is to not have and to have had and lost, you never know no matter how far you get from that, you never forget it.
You never forget it. No.
And you never forget the kindness that people do for you.
No, I know this is kind of crazy from sitting here telling you that I've completed 3 chapters of my doctoral dissertation, but believe it or not, I had some humbling experiences going through a divorce. I actually wound up being homeless on the weekends because of some judge's orders. And when I moved back to Pennsylvania on 13 hours' notice, I was on food stamps and medical access cards. But I have some stamina and some grit, I guess, and resilience to help
grit.
me keep on keeping on. And just because I've come from where I've come from, I just look at myself in perspective to other people and think, gee, I am not in Syria with the clothes on my back, a baby on my back, the shoes I'm wearing, not knowing where I'm going to eat or sleep. So I am blessed.
Well, yeah. I mean, we all have our different degrees of troubles and tribulations. But I always say it, when Sally Struthers shows up with a mic and starts doing a telethon, then I've got real problems. But until then, I've just got to push through and use the word grit. And I use that word all the time because I think there's a lacking of grit in the world. I don't think we put it into people anymore. I don't think people deal with adversity well because they just don't. We've gotten rid of words out of the lexicon. Like we don't use the word inconvenience anymore. Nobody says inconvenience because it would minimize and trivialize the calamity that is befalling me. To say that I am merely inconvenienced, I can never be merely inconvenienced, And because I tell people that, as you get older, I'm like 80% grit, scar tissue, and second wind. It's pretty much
love it.
That's pretty much what you're made of at this point.
Love it.
And
Yeah.
but I just I think this is such a great thing that, and I'm not saying do anybody's fault or anything. I don't think a lot of people know about this. I think a lot of people need it.
They don't know what a treasure we have, and it there's so much for free for those people who need. They don't come out and network, and not everybody comes out to network, and they really have to come out and network and meet people. It's just a fantastic organization, and when I took it over in 2015, I did have hopes to turn it into a 501c3 nonprofit in 2016. I really felt it was a community organization serving the community. But my mom passed away, and I had to deal with those matters. So in 2017, in January, I was adopted by a master's degree change management class at Immaculata University, and they helped me transform into a 501c3 charitable nonprofit. So we wrote the bylaws, we wrote the roles and responsibilities for the board members, and then I had filed the 1023 on April 10th. 8 days later, it was approved by the IRS. We used no attorney. We used no accountant, just smart people that know how to write and fill out forms.
You got something to the IRS in 8 days?
8 days the IRS approved us right during tax time. Is that phenomenal?
We have paperwork in with one that I'm with to the IRS that I think going back and forth, and it's not because anything's wrong. It's just a change. Mm-hmm. And I keep saying that we're going to have a bar mitzvah party for this problem because it's going to go long, and the most we can get out of them is notes saying it's going long. So that's something in and of itself. The group meets throughout the area. It's close to anybody, and there's of course online components. There's no great expense to anybody other than getting there, showing up, and participating.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's as accessible as it can be to most people.
So when I put a board together, our board has now grown from 7 to 9, and we've had 16 board meetings. And in that process, we actually grew and started a Salesforce CRM. So we were not getting the metrics that we needed out of the meetup because it's got its limitations. So we're all volunteer-based. We don't pay anybody. So we have a new website being built, just everybody. Everybody's a volunteer. So we had some terrific people build our Salesforce CRM, and that's helping us gather other metrics that we need because we're applying for grants. Now, we have one that we're applying for in January. We're waiting in January to hear about 2 other grants. We can't survive and keep on doing what we're doing. I'm sure you've heard it takes money to make money, and that's so true for nonprofits also. We have some great things that we can do, and I'm kind of the feeling that we want to do things at the Costco, Walmart prices. We want to keep prices low for the average everyday person so it doesn't hurt their pocketbook. But by having some money come in, this will allow us to keep having some stuff for free for those who can't pay. So we need to figure out a plan for sustainability. And right now, we definitely need a little financial injection to get us off to the next level with what we have planned.
Yeah, and it sounds a lot like one of the things I do is that, you have this energy, enthusiasm, and you want to do something good, and then, there's somebody, knocking at the door, the rent collector or whatever. You could hear that faint knock, and and I really believe that in organizations, and maybe this is the same with yours, I think there are people that take care of bills, and I think there are people that take care of dreams. And I think they're different people because they're different sides of the brain, and you've got to be respectful and cognitive of each other. But I don't think that you can do both. I had a guy on here who does a chess club in the city, and he's a teacher. The only teacher in the city does just chess, and he has to get these kids to a chess championship in another city, and a busload of kids. And I can't imagine if you had to get a busload of kids to anything. I can't imagine doing it. I had to give, this is horrible, but I had to give a demo to a bunch of scouts, and we were doing a thing with a group of scouts, and they had to do a grid line for searching, and they had to do all this stuff. And people were standing back watching them, and they said, how did you wrangle them? Because they were running crazy. He said, how did you wrangle them so well? This guy was like, this is amazing. They're perfectly behaved. They're in perfect line. And then one of my guys looks down with the binoculars. He goes, they're tied together. They're tied together at the ankle. It's all I could come up with. I was in a rush. I can't imagine how... and it's different people that do different things, and we've got to wrangle in these problems. And when you're a dreamer, you can go off on a tangent and forget that.
Well, right now, we do have people that have landed jobs, and they do remember us. Not everybody, but some of them do remember us, and they make a tax deductible donation to us when they land their jobs. But that's still not enough to sustain the organization. I don't know any business that can run for free. There's a cost of website hosting and printing and the meetup cost. And
well, you're in a difficult situation, too, because this guy was such a just positive dreamer. He said, the money will come. And that was just his whole thing. The money will come. And it did. It did. I see a picture of him holding a giant Epic Man check, and the money came. And but you're in a situation where you're almost like we are in search and rescue or a fire department. Something. You're almost thought of as a utilitarian kind of thing, and people need you when they need you.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you write grants, people are all about taking care of children and pets and vets, but try to give to a job seeker group. If I were to explain this a couple different ways, you know how when you're on an airplane they say put the oxygen mask on first on the adult? Well, this is it. How can the kids eat if the adults don't have the jobs to earn the paycheck to buy the food to feed them? So that's one thing. The other thing is, I don't know if you've ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Oh, yeah.
But, the basics are that we need food and water as the baseline. And so we are not a food pantry. We don't hand people food. We teach the man to fish.